Good morning, class. So, again, today we are going to continue with our third chapter, that is private, public, and global enterprises. As we have seen, the Indian economy depends on the private sector as well as on the government sector. In the private sector, in our previous classes, we have already discussed about the sole proprietorship, partnership, HUF family business, and cooperative societies and different type of the companies which comes under the private sector. So in this chapter we are going to discuss over the public sector. Under the public sector we have basically departmental undertaking, government companies, and statutory corporations. So here we are going to continue with the statutory corporations. So that is a kind of business organization or the form of the business organization for which in the parliament government used to pass a special act. So these type of the organization come into the existence just because of the special act passed in the parliament, and the rights, responsibilities, powers, everything of that company is decided by the government. Okay, so they are managed by government, and also that particular department or the parliament clearly state the rights, responsibility, procedure of the selection of employees, and relationship of their employees or this form of the business organization with government. Okay, so this type of business organization, they are free to take their decisions. Okay, so let's discuss their meaning. Statutory corporations are public enterprises. Definitely these are a kind of public enterprises brought into the existence by a special act of the parliament. So that form of the business organization come into the light just because of the special act passed in the parliament. The act defines its powers and functions, rules and regulations governing its employees and its relationship with government departments. So in the parliament or that special act also define the powers and functions, rule regulation, that is called memorandum or the article of association, okay, governing procedures, and the relationship of their employees with different government departments. This is a corporate body, that is a business body, okay, body created by the legislature with defined powers and functions that we have already seen, and is a financially independent with a clear control over a specified area of a particular type of commercial activities. Basically they are involved in doing some specific type of the commercial activities, it means business activities. So after that we have to check the features of statutory corporations. What are the main features? So first and the very important thing, they are set up under an act of parliament and are governed by the provisions of the act, that we know very well. Then second one, the act defines the objects, powers and privileges of statutory corporations, that we have already discussed. Okay, so first, statutory corporations, they are set up under the special act of the parliament, and that act defines the objectives, powers and the responsibility of that organization. This type of organization is wholly owned by the state. The government has ultimate financial responsibility and has the power to appropriate its profit. So most probably statutory corporations, they are comes under the state government, and state government is ultimate responsible for the financial assistance of such a form of the business organization. And if that form of the business organization is getting profit, in that case state government can ask for their shares of profit. A statutory corporation is a body corporate and can enter into the contract and acquire property in its own name. So all the business organizations which are registered under any act, they have different corporate body, so that's why they can enter into any contract easily and they can acquire any property by their its name. This type of the enterprises is usually independently financed. It obtains funds by borrowing from the government or from the public. Sometimes such a form of the business organization can ask government for the fundings or they can directly contact to the public by the issuing of shares or the debentures. And the next, a statutory corporation is not subject to the same accounting and audit procedures applicable to the government department. As we have seen in the departmental undertaking, they have a procedure regarding the audit and all. But such a type of the business organization have different way, different procedure for their auditing. Okay. The employees of these enterprises are not government or the civil servants and are not governed by government rules and regulations. So basically they are not government officers, okay? So they are not called government servants. That's why they are not governed by, they don't have to follow the rules or regulations given by the government. Okay, all the rules or regulations for the government servants which are selected like IAS, PCS, like that, okay? After that, we have to check the some positive things, merits. So first and the very important positive thing, they enjoy independence in their financial, as we have seen. They are financially free. They are not depending on the government. If they need more fund, they can borrow from the public in the way of shares or in the way of debentures. Government generally does not interfere in their financial matter, as we have already seen. So such a form of the business organization, they can enter into any contract with any person or any party. So basically government have never interfere. They are autonomous organizations. They frame their own policies and procedure within the powers assigned to them by the act. Whatever powers has been suggested by the parliament for such a type of the business organization, other than this, that statutory corporation, they can make their own policy or the procedure. They can make their own memorandum of association and article of association. Next one, a statutory corporation is available instrument for economic development. It has the power of the government combined with initiative of private enterprises. Basically such a form of the business organization that is established by government, but most probably they work like a private sector. That's why they are the major source of government's revenue. After the merits, we have some demerits, some negative things about the statutory corporations. First and the very important, that a statutory corporation does not enjoy as much operational flexibility. Definitely that is a kind of independent body, but such a form of the business organization has been set up by the government. So by the different ways, government used to interfere in the activities done by such a form of business organization. So simply we can say their operational activities are not flexible. They are not fully in the power to take their own decisions. And government and political interference has always been there, definitely, because we can see if we are running any private sector, then even government can do any kind of interfere, and that is a part of government enterprises, so definitely they will interfere in their different activities. The government has a practice of appointing advisors to the corporation body. This curbs the freedom of the corporation in entering into contract and other decisions. Most probably such a form of the business organizations are managed by board of directors, and the members of board of directors are elected by the governments. So once when government elect their representative or send their representative in any companies, so they create problem regarding the contract, regarding the issue of shares and all, and there are a lot of formalities which take lot of time. If there is any disagreement, the matter is referred to the government for final decision. This further delays action. So there may be the disputes in between the management or management who belongs to the government or other person who are the part of that business organization. If there is any dispute or disagreements, so for the final discussion this matter will reach to the government and government will give his final decision, and this process may delay the real activities. So it was our statutory corporation with their merits and the demerits. After that we have government companies. Okay, what is government company? So just forget about the government, we have to talk over the government only, because in our previous chapters we have discussed about the companies. So companies, it means all the companies which are established or registered under the Indian Companies Act 1956. Okay, so that definition we can extend for the government companies. All the government companies, it means all the companies which are run, managed and controlled by state or the central government, okay, equally or the in any ratio, that is called government companies. So when government register their companies under the Indian Companies Act 1956 and so on, that is considered here as government company. These are established for purely business purposes because the main motive of the companies is to earn money by doing lawful business activities. So the main motive of companies, government companies, are purely business, okay, and in true spirit compete with companies in the private sectors. Similarly, in India we can see we have lot of public companies who is still competing private sectors. Just like in India we have BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electronics Limited, जो इंडिया की सबसे बड़ी कंपनी है, which used to produce heavy goods, heavy electronic goods. Okay, most probably in India जितने भी इलेक्ट्रिक डिपार्टमेंट्स के लिए जितने भी इक्विपमेंट्स होते हैं सारे BHEL बना करके देती है. एंड नॉट इवन ही सप्लाई, दिस कंपनी सप्लाई देयर गुड्स in India, even they used to export their products. Okay, and similarly we have Bharat Petroleums, Hindustan Petroleums, like that. These are all are the government companies. You have already heard about the SEL, Steel Authority of India Limited, that is also the government ventures. Okay, according to the Indian Companies Act 1956, a government company means any company in which not less than 51% of the paid up capitals held by the central government or the state government. Okay, so you must remember every time, if you having the share 51% shares of any company, then you will be the owner of that company. That's why in the Company Act 1956 clearly mentioned, if we having the 51% shares of any company, then definitely we will be the owner. So if any state government and central government have more than 51% shares of any company, then that company will be considered as government companies. So here we have some features of government companies. Like first, it is an organization created by Indian Companies Act 1956. So any organization which are registered under the Companies Act 1956 will be considered as government company. The company can file a suit in a court of law against any third party, as because companies, they are also called artificial person. As an individual, as a person, if we can file case against someone, then definitely company is an artificial person, so company can also file case against someone. The company can enter into any contract, that we have already seen. If we have any kind of the business organization, so by the name of the business organization we can enter in contract. The management of the company is regulated by the provisions of the Companies Act. All the companies have their own rules and regulations. Okay, that is called Article of Association and a Memorandum of Association. So they have their own rule or regulations for their internal bodies, internal activities, and for their external activities. And reports is to be presented in the parliament. All the government company, they used to present their report in the parliament. So after the features of, we have some merits, some positive things. A government company can be established by fulfilling the requirements of the Indian Companies Act. So we have a procedure how we can register company. So any sort of the organization which used to fulfill the requirement which has been suggested in Indian Companies Act, after that any kind of the companies can be converted into the public company or the private company. A separate act in the parliament is not required, as we have seen about the departmental undertaking or the statutory corporation. For the government company, there is not requirement of any special act in the parliament. It has a separate legal entity apart from the government. Okay, that is a completely separate body. Okay, government can't interfere in their activities. It enjoys autonomy in all management decisions, and they take their own decision regarding the selection of employees, regarding the transfer, regarding the buying of material, regarding the selling of materials. Government do not interfere in their activities, and these companies, by providing goods and services at reasonable price, are able to control the market and curb unhealthy business practices. So in the market, if there is unhealthy competition, that is called cutthroat competition, that can be removed, because they used to provide all the materials at very reasonable prices. Okay, these were the merits. Then after we have some demerits. So demerits of the government companies are equivalent of the uh, demerits of the statutory corporations. Okay, so here you can write these topics again. So next, here we have to check the changing role of public sector in the business organization. अभी आज का जो सिनारियो इन द प्रेजेंट सिनारियो, व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ पब्लिक सेक्टर. ओके, so how public sector helps in our economy. Okay, so before, just to understand this concept, we have to discuss some things which is not the part of our syllabus, but to understand this topic we have to discuss. So you can imagine, just like if we have not enough financial support to take any kind of medical for any medical treatments, then definitely we will approach to the government hospitals and all. Just imagine if government hospital is also going to charge according to the private sector. So definitely more than 75% population of our country can't be treated. Okay, even right now in present scenario we have different government organizations just like AIMS and all. Okay, PGIs are there, जो किसी private sector hospital से भी बहुत बड़े होते हैं. Okay, and they provide their services at very reasonable rate. Just if you are going to any government hospitals, so hardly they charge 10 rupees for that slip and all. Okay, then after that you don't have to prepare that slip again. Okay, it will be applicable for the month or for the year or for the entire treatment only, and you don't have to pay anything to the doctors, that is of the fee, because when we reach to the doctors they charge 200, 300, 500. It depends on the doctors, their ability and the location also. And similarly we can imagine about the transports facilities, okay, provided by the different governments authorities. Just like in different state government have their own transport, just like Maharashtra transport services and Rajasthan transport services, Uttar Pradesh transport services. I haven't seen in the Chhattisgarh and I am not aware about it कि छत्तीसगढ़ में भी गवर्नमेंट इस टाइप का कोई रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए बसें प्रोवाइड करती है. सो ओके, they used to charge very nominal amount. Okay, so if they are not available in that place, so in that case we have to pay lot of amount. And similarly we have Indian Railway. In Indian Railway we are well aware about the most of the people's travels WT without ticket and some travels with ticket, that is also WT. Okay, so these are the things. So अगर गवर्नमेंट नहीं है तो क्या होगी, चीज़ें बहुत कॉस्टली हो जाएंगी, इतनी कॉस्टली कि मे बी पॉसिबल कि हम लोग उसको अफोर्ड भी नहीं कर पाएंगे. सो गवर्नमेंट प्लेज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल्स in, just like because for the railways we need a lot of infrastructure, we need to invest lot of amount. Okay, which can't be done by the private sectors very easily, it can be done by the government sectors. Just to support our nation, just to provide base, okay, base for all the industries or all the business organization, we have public sectors. Okay. So what are the roles of public sectors? First, development of infrastructure. Basically governments develop the infrastructure, and by the using of that infrastructures other business organization or other industrialists they use to earn money. Just like the road and development corporation is there. Okay, they basically use to develop road, they provide road transport facilities. So that's why we can see 2 lane, 4 lane, 6 lane, 8 lane roads in our countries, which help us for the fastest means of communication. If government is not there, so you can imagine ki what will be the condition in the country. Then economies of scale, okay, where large scale industries are required to be set up with huge capital, and it can be done by the government only, just like the electric power plants, natural gas, petroleum and telephone industries. Because for setting such a form of the business organization, we need to spend lot of money, and it can be done by the governments only, not by the any private business body. And then regional balance, as we know, if we are talking about our nation, our country, that is India, so diversity, that is there are a lot of diversity in the language, in the living standard, about the natural resources. We can see in our Chhattisgarh we have lot of coals, maybe iron, है ना, aluminiums, we have sufficient. But what about Rajasthan, what about Punjab? So each and every state have their own resources. They are not enough capable to produce each and everything which they can use to supply everywhere. Okay, so we are totally depends on each other. Okay, so just to make the regional balances, government has suggested to open big and large business organization in the remote areas. Just for that we can see after 1951, okay, the government laid down its 5 years plans. You are aware about the 5 year plans, and plans that particular attentions would be paid to those region which were lagging behind. Okay, so that's why 4 major steel plants were set up in the backward areas, just to accelerate the economic development और द एम्प्लॉयमेंट, चांस ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट इन दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. तो इसके बाद क्या हुआ, आप देख सकते हो छत्तीसगढ़ में, उड़ीसा में, वेस्ट बंगाल के जो बैकवर्ड एरियाज हैं वहाँ पर बड़ी बड़ी फैक्ट्रीज ओपन हुई, जिससे लोगों को एक अच्छा जॉब मिल सके, एक अच्छा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मिल सके. एंड चेक ओवर concentration of economic power. The public sectors act as a check over the private sector. In the private sector, there are very few industrial houses. Okay, because if I am asking to you, just tell me the names of some industrial organizations. So hardly you will say, sir, Reliance, Tata, okay, and Adani groups. So hardly we have very few names. Okay, and they used to invest their amount only in the business or the industries where they can earn more and more profit. Just like Tata groups, they have their own medicals. Okay, Ambani's Reliance have their own schooling chains or the medicals. Okay, so each and every business houses, they used to invest their capital, heavy capital, in only in that business organization from where they can earn more and more profit. They do not believe in most of the social services, but they do. Okay, then after import substitutions, if we are going to import each and everything just to fulfill our basic needs, so definitely the economic condition of our country will be worst. So just to make the economic condition, or just to improve the economic condition of our country, government used to invest in the heavy industries in our country, just to produce those things which we used to purchase or import from other countries. Okay, then after, government has changed their policies. Okay, since 1991, that is called new economic reforms. So up to 1991, basically when you will divide Indian history, it will be classified into the various categories. Just like that, we can classify it as Indian history as before the arrival of Mughals, Indian history as before the arrival of Britishers, Indian history just before the freedom, Indian history just after the 1991. Okay, just because of the 1947 to 1991, we have faced a lot of things, just like different wars were there. Okay, different natural calamities were there. So in the year of 1991, government has suggested a plan which were very important for the economical development of our country, which is called here new economic reforms. And under that reforms, government has suggested the concept of LPG. LPG means liberalization, privatization and globalization. Liberalization, it means we have to give liberty to the business organizations, because before 1991 if we are going to increase the production, so for that we have to take license. If we are going to open any business organization, then again we have to take license. So there was a licensing system which has been removed by the government. Right now we have only three major business organization. For that you will be required licensing system, otherwise licensing system has been removed just because of the liberalization. Privatization, it means we have to encourage the private sector for their investment or for the economic growth of the nation. And last, globalization, we have to capture, we have to find out international market for our products. If any Indian company produce anything, so government helps that organization to introduce their product in the international market. And in the that suggestion, government has start functioning with the public sector units which were very sick. Very sick, it means which was not able to cope up. So government decided to shut down that business organization. If any business organization, public sector unit is there which can be grow by the investment, so government has decided to make some investment also.